the team should be doing. We'll go more into the deep dive as we get closer to the draft, post draft, things of that nature. But people have cap space, people have year space, people have assets, and we actually know what number the picks are now. So let's just get back into trading here. What do you think, RJ?
I love it. I love everything about rollover. You know, I was able to devote a little bit more time to, cobbling together some of these beautiful trades. So we'll certainly go over some of those. But I'm glad to have a numerical value attached to all of the draft picks. You that like 100%, because now I can try to sell off 101 and not feel like I'm, making some ridiculous offer of one draft pick for many.
Hey, I love ridiculous offers, even when they don't involve me. Um, but let's just jump into it with the first team listed here with an early pick, and uh, I'd say starting pretty well on the rebuild. The Steelers, you know, Jameis Winston at a discount hit goal with Mac Jones. Um, some better than expected receivers, some found money, especially in Jordan Brooks. Um, when I looked at this team, I don't know if you agreed. It feels like they're a year away. They made a lot of the right moves, but they kind of need to break down one more year and then use those assets, and then next year be in the thick of it. Especially considering how tough the AFC North is doing. At least my thought. So when I looked at this, the theme I was looking at is there a pivot off of either Jordan Brooks or Mac Jones that allows you to acquire a good number of assets, taking advantage of their low cost and high point value to extract enough assets to really build out the rest of his team. I figured those were the ones that would bring the most back. And considering that, you know, he's not competing this year, using another year of Mac Jones being cheap doesn't help him in the long run as much as the assets that he could get back for a player like that right now, I think. What were you thinking?
I agree. So a lot of the ones that I like when I approached these were, if I were the team and I were just going to give it an honest shot of improving by acquiring assets. Now there's a couple of them where I do have a player traded for a pick, but still ultimately like the pick in that range would help them improve. Um, so like all the ones that I thought of are kind of more leaning towards somewhat of a competing, or if not getting younger and trying to get more productive. Um, I don't hate the idea of getting rid of Mac, but I probably wouldn't just because this team's closer than some of the other tanking teams. Um, so you'll probably get the last 2 years of Mac, like to actually make an honest run at the division. So Jordan Brooks would probably be the asset that I'd move. In the meantime, he's probably some absurd value, um, just because he's already been extended. Uh, I don't even want to think of what type of haul that he would bring. Um, I was thinking moving Blake Martinez and trying to get younger.
Hmm.
Um, he's still a productive player. Yes, he was injured last year, but long term, he's been a productive player. He's not old, but he's aging. And like with this team, I think you just want to get slightly younger. So I would go out and with the with the cap space that he has right now, I'd probably take a shot at a young yet diminished, like a young productive player whose value is diminished recently. I
Hmm.
would probably go after Foye Aluakon.
That's a great idea. With Foye hitting the Pro Bowl and holding out this year, which got announced earlier today, not in real life, in our situation,
Right.
he's going to go on IR for the Bears until um, he gets paid. And because he hit the Pro Bowl, he is going to get paid.
He's going to be
So,
the number. He'll be the number two, like paid linebacker in the league. So it'll be about $15 million, somewhere in that range.
which again isn't. an unbearable amount, but you can only have so
Mm-mm.
many of those on your team, especially with the cap being at 177 million this year.
Right.
So that's a great idea. I mean, because the thought should be, let me get an asset that's going to be there in 2 or 3 years, but not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily need to be draft picks. But again, if we're using the cap space also, then it can't be a rookie. Otherwise, you're just burning rookie years on the contract.
Right.
Um, again, the other thought to this is so again, I thought, okay, maybe for picks, like, okay, maybe
Hmm.
he goes to like a goose and tries to get two of his late first for Jordan Brooks because it's $1 million and a 250-point linebacker. A lot of people won't give one first rounder for a linebacker, let alone two. So trying to go for picks probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I like the depreciated asset approach. I
Hmm.
almost wonder if it's like you shoot the moon going a slightly different way. Like maybe it's a Corey Davis, like someone like that. That $14 million, I think, wide receiver. Um, Again, you get to trade defense for offense, and then you get like a draft asset with that.
Right.
So by freeing up 14 million for the other team, you get some draft capital back. They might not have given you in the first place, and you get a productive player at wide receiver, where the Steelers aren't too poor off right now, but he's going to have trouble trying to move any of those because the uncertainty with Rodgers means Lazard's going to be tough to move. I think the jury's still out on what the heck's going on with the Jets, especially with Zach Wilson and that offense. So Elijah Moore might not get to the value you're looking for. And then Jacoby Myers, I think, we like, but it's a question of would someone pay enough for how much it's like. So I almost think, yeah, it's,
So Jacoby's an interesting one that, like, I think if any of the competing teams had it, like they probably would have paid a first, like somewhere around trade deadline last year. Um, Not to say his position with the team has gotten worse, or his values like diminished. I just don't see anybody that would, like, one. I don't know if Steelers would like just blindly trade off for a first, but like a reasonable first, probably like a mid round this year, top 16. Um, but like I don't know if anybody would pay that right now because I think a lot of people would rather just sit and wait to see how the wide receiver like position shakes out in New England.
yeah,
So
because
like,
yeah, I'm noticing that with again, it's early draft season, so the lists are abundant, but the lists are a huge variance. Like usually you'll get an idea of like, okay, here's the top 2 or 3 guys, and then here's the
mhm,
next 3 or 4 guys. That top tier, I'm seeing, anywhere from 5 to 7 um, receivers, kind of shuffling order up there in terms of who's going to be the number one guy, who's the top thing. So waiting for draft capital, waiting for combine, waiting for our draft
right.
seems like it was as good of an idea as any this year, especially when it comes to some of that kind of stuff. So I agree. So okay, I think we agree. Brooks is probably the piece that would be moved. It's just a question of the right items back for it. I think, Martinez coming off of injury, he might not get full value. I like that idea, especially considering the position he's going to play. But he may need to kind of sit on Martinez until you get a couple games into the season and then move him. Let injuries happen.
I mean, I think you end up like I think you trade off Martinez and like a third for somebody that's just same like tier, just not injured.
yeah.
Perceived tier, I should say.
Okay.
Because we don't know if Martinez is going to be productive, but it's not an unreasonable gamble.
No, that's fair. All right. Let's just kind of, I was going to keep going down the roster order unless you want to stay in the AFC North.
No, you're good if you wanna move to another team.
Well, I was just going to move just to the right on the roster page because that's where the Packers are. Um, So Jeremy, of course, made the playoffs last year. He does like to oscillate between whether he's competing or rebuilding. Um, and I think the big thing for him right now is he needs to shuffle around some of his assets. He's got $100 million in cap space tied up between Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, and Mark Andrews. Filling out the rest of the team is going to be tough with that, especially considering Chubb is on the final year of his contract and means he's either got to get trade extended or franchised for next year. So that being said, I think the move here for Jeremy is, with teams currently flush with cap space, is to make a deal involving Chubb and or Kupp to get a number of assets back, giving a team an opportunity to either give him a couple of running backs who can put up running back 2 plus maybe a wide receiver 2 numbers, get a good amount of depth of scoring because, again, he could use it. And again, I like Kupp. Kupp just had a fantastic year, and he's burning people with route running, but you're never going to sell higher on a player than right now. So,
yeah, but
those guys to.
But with that, it takes somebody willing to pay that much, and I think it's going to be a little bit difficult with Kupp, kind of in the same sense of like, what was it, 2 years ago, Mike Thomas's value off of that record-breaking season.
Yep.
It's not really easy to move because they're just such an expensive asset.
But again, we found teams who have an appetite for players like that. So again, you may not move both of them in the same deal. You may find someone who's willing to give you kind of a 5 for 2. But
back when Saquon was worth something like that, he got moved multiple times in this league. So it very, very well could happen with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and again, maybe it is something like a Dolphins, saying, okay, yeah, for Chubb and Kupp, I'll give you Barkley, Kirk, and I don't know, another piece of his offensive depth, like something of that standpoint that allows him to reset the clock at running back, cash out of some of the stuff, and utilize some cap space. Because even with the $30 million Keenan Allen contract, Dolphins, I think, still has $40 million in terms of cap space. So I think something like that, like a Chubb and Kupp for like a Saquon or an Aaron Jones, like you could probably get about $30 million worth of players there in a 3 or 4 player combination. That sets him up better. He gets to keep his Lamar and Andrew stack. Let Cortland Sutton keep growing and hopefully earning that big extension you just got. So that's where I'm thinking of this. What do you think, RJ? Are you in a similar spot, or do you go a different direction?
Give me Saquon. Give me Christian Kirk. Give me John Franklin Myers. Give me Logan Wilson. Happy with that.
Oh yeah, and Wilson showed out in the Super Bowl, so that's an asset to try and go get right now. And I mean, if you're the Dolphins, I mean, you still have Aaron Jones to go with Chubb, so you're still set at running back. You get Kupp to consolidate some of that value, so Kupp and Keenan should carry you with your other guys kind of tossed in. Plus, from a cap space perspective, you're not too much further off. Even though you still have the 40. So you basically say offense, done, move back to defense.
Yeah. The Dolphins have any draft picks this year?
I'm not certain. Probably.
Well, I mean, if they have draft picks, then it's a lot easier to just replace those defensive players. And you're essentially trading defense for an upgraded offense.
Yeah.
Can't complain there.
No, I agree. All right. So next team up, we had the Browns. Really leaned into the injury situation last year. Just a plethora of receivers that 2 years ago would have made everybody just shit their pants and just start drooling like they're well, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get thrown off the air. Anyways, just really maximized acquiring distressed assets. Now he's got a pretty good looking team. The big thing is going to be he has a lot of defensive players, but he doesn't have tent poles. I like Trey Flowers and Montez Sweat. I think those can score points for you at the end, but he probably needs one more. And he doesn't exactly have a tent pole at linebacker that you can kind of feel confident. Okay, if nothing else happens, this guy's going to get me, 12 to 15 a week, and then I'm just looking for upside from anybody else. So I know we just said it's never a bad thing to trade defense for offense. I think in this case, the deal that makes most sense for the Browns is to try and trade one of those distressed receivers into a defensive player or two, taking advantage of the idea of people would rather trade defense for offense and offense for defense. So we might get a bit of a premium on that. So again, I don't know what value Michael Thomas's name has right now, but he'd be the first one I try out there. And if I can't get the right value, Chase Claypool is probably a distressed asset, so it might not get as much. But like if he took a I don't know, Terry McLaurin and broke him down, I think he would still have enough good receivers on that team. I don't think he's going to trade McLaurin because there's definitely a strong connection between those two. But I'd try and get the most I could out of one of those assets at receiver to round out the rest of my team.
I think I do agree getting rid of one of the wide receivers. He seems pretty willing to get rid of it. He understands that, he just has an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver. Claypool would definitely be the one that I get rid of. I probably wouldn't consider getting rid of Terry unless it's a really good offer, especially not for defense, unless it's like a top tier player. My thought was actually an in-division trade and just, I don't know, Bengals sends over Miles Sanders, Browns sends Claypool.
Yeah, I mean, both stressed assets.
Both young, apparently unappreciated by their teams. So, but they will get some type of a workload next year. They are higher end players. So just swap those two.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Bengals seems to be really open to moving a running back. Brown seems to be open to moving a wide receiver. So
funny how that works.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks before rollover, trade bait for Bengals is trying to acquire a running back. Now I've got too many running backs. I guess I got to get rid of one. So it's funny how that works in our league.
Yep.
All right. Keeping it moving over to the Ravens. Again, another team that, son of a bitch beat me for third place this year, but after rollover continues to look like a well-rounded team. I think, again, in-division trades, especially one between the Browns and the Ravens, would never happen in real life. But that said, a team that could really use a receiver in a real bad way. I know the last podcast or two I came on and just ranted and raved about Braxton Berrios. That said, he might be leaving the Jets, is what I thought I saw. So if he's leaving that role, that's something I didn't know when I was ranting and raving. So I try and give good advice, but I don't always do it. I think that's a hole. So you can kind of start picking across some of the holes here on the team. So I think a deal that gets him a receiver back, even if it involves trying to break down from something, like, look, he's not going to trade Joe Burrow. So don't ask, don't offer. It's not going to happen. But trying to break one of his premium assets down into a couple good assets might be the way I deal with this one.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. So he has the 201 that he got from me, and I would probably look to pair that with one of his safeties and just move that for some type of a wide receiver. The one I wrote down is probably go talk to 49ers and ask for T.Y. Hilton.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I mean, assuming good health next year, he should have one more good year in him. And Ravens has done a really good job of kind of scraping together a team when folks didn't think he'd have the assets for it. So it's very much a Ravens kind of player. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that would fit. Like that's kind of a higher end wide receiver that would really like fill out his team. Getting rid of Logan Ryan, like, don't get me wrong, he's a top tier safety, but like he already has two other top tier safeties, or roundabout that. So he can just go get a third one in free agency, hopefully. And he doesn't have to worry about paying some ridiculous amount for, a good wide receiver during the season. And I don't know how deep the wide receivers are going to be for 201 this year.
Sure.
Because we've averaged about 10 or 11 in the first round annually. So are there going to be productive ones after 11 this year?
Probably not. I feel like we're going to have above average in terms of the number of receivers taken in the first round this year. So 2-1's going to be a tough spot for that. I think it's still a very valuable pick, but I think that's going to be a tough spot to rely on getting that. So I like the idea of trying to move up with a Logan Ryan, who's a useful player, to get the player you need. So next one, I think is going to be a lot of fun to kind of wax eloquent and come up, theorize on. So we gave Texans a lot of props before rollover, and we'll continue to do so because took over an impossible situation. No cap space, very few draft assets, and a lot of overvalued veteran players in a playoff push, but needed to free up enough cap space to extend Josh Allen and Roquan Smith. Was able to do it. Now rollovers happened. We have $24 million in space and 20 players under contract. So the extension got made. Congratulations. You got to trade with them.
Yep.
I mean, I don't love the idea of doing it. Studs matter, especially when you're building for a championship. But you can't have half your roster spoken for and only have 20 players. Half your roster spoken for, you have $24 million in cap. That's just not going to get it done. So, unfortunately, with Campbell, I think, becoming a free agent, he's not going to carry a lot of value until after folks get signed. Floyd, Roquan, it's got to be Roquan or Josh Allen. Otherwise, you're trying to sell low. Someone's not going to give you that. They're going to give you 50, 60 cents on the dollar, and you're past that point. You extended your guys. You were in a position of strength on some of these players again. Deal from a position of strength. Don't deal from a position of weakness. And that's what you're going to be doing if you try and trade any other 8-digit guys like Melvin Gordon, Carlos Dunlap, Shelby Harris. These are guys that are going to be expensive, and folks won't give you more than 70 cents on the dollar for them. Hold them, extend the ones you've got to extend, wait for the right opportunity, and then trade them for assets. Again, someone's going to pay it's going to happen. Someone's going to pay $25 million for a DN this year. That DN may not show up. Again, this happened last year. I forget which DN it was for Colts, but the guy he paid, I think, $32 million for, I think, scored 32 points last year.
Derek Barnett.
So there's going to be a team that does that and has the cap space and a draft capital for a Shelby Harris. So assuming nobody takes him in a franchise tag bidding, he's the perfect opportunity. Take him on the franchise tag and then trade him for, whatever that wasted contract is in a second.
I was just gonna say he should go talk to Giants or Ravens Falcons and try to offload Devondre Campbell for a first round pick, whether it be Giants 2023 or Falcons 132.
I think the value is there. The problem is going to be, I'm pretty sure it's real life NFL. Campbell's a free agent. So the role he had with Green Bay, absolutely worth it. Another role, maybe not so much.
I mean, he went from Atlanta to Green Bay and was still productive. I would have faith in him doing it again. He's only 28.
So again, I think he had mentioned earlier, he would make a good tent pole for some of these teams, like a team like the Browns, who I could see maybe I don't know if you wanted to give Michael Thomas a shot, for example, maybe you do a trade like Michael Thomas for Devontae Campbell. But
I don't know if I don't think the value's anywhere close. Michael Thomas is twice that.
he might is he going to play again? He didn't play last year.
And
We weren't
I'm
going to
pretty
hold
sure
out even if he was healthy.
I'm pretty sure he had a setback at another one at some point in the past few months.
So something like that, I think, could make some sense. But yeah, my first instinct would be, you know what hurts? Go get a shitload for Josh Allen. Like, we're talking 2 or 3 assets, multiple picks, and a player. Like, you can go get probably 3 or 4 big pieces from a team who wants a 440-point quarterback. And God, the Bills throw a lot more than I thought they did. So strong running quarterback who can run and throws a ton. Like, what are we doing here? That's exactly what you're asking for. There's teams that are going to pay out the nose for that. So I think the move here is to move Josh Allen. I know the owner probably doesn't want to do that, but now you're going from a position of strength rather than, people like me coming around saying, hey, you need to free some cap space. What do you want to do?
Yeah. I do think Allen was probably more valuable before we actually put the price to him. Because last year, like around trade deadline, like or even before all of this happened, after trades were allowed, like at the end of the year, like I would have moved him relatively quick, like while he still had $2 million attached to him or whatnot. Before we actually had a $40 million contract attached to him.
Hey, and just suggested in chat that I should go get Josh Allen. Yeah, I'd give you 3 or 4 pieces for him. You want Tua, Tyler Lockett, Khalil Mack, and a pick? Come on in. Water's fine. Probably aren't pieces that you're looking for, but that's unfortunately what it takes to make a deal with me right now because I've got so much of my cap spread out about so many players. Unless it involves Khalil or Lockett, it's tougher for me to do. So I love the idea of it. Just I'm a tougher guy to deal with at the moment, just because of the way my team's set up.
Yep.
And
that's how a lot of players or a lot of the teams are at this point.
So, RJ, I'm going to need you to take the lead on the next section because I have given my word. I'm not going to offer any more trades to the Colts. He asked me to stop. He's called me out in chat. He's probably called me some other names in chat and underneath his breath because of some of my trade offers I've sent him. And I've given my word. I'm not going to do it. So I need you to take the lead on Colts. I might chip in with a thought or two here, but I need to stick to my word here that I'm not allowed to give offers to this guy.
So I don't know if he wants to compete. He has the pick to get a quarterback this year. So, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, based off where the quarterbacks are going to go in this draft, I think.
Right.
And then consequently in our draft, he should be able to get a quarterback with his pick. Yes.
Okay. And like the only thing that I would really move is like Quan, just to give you a little bit more flexibility. And like he did all right last year, especially coming off of an injury. Like when you actually look at his production, and like the games that he missed, he was a really productive player. So I'd probably be trying to trade him. Not for anything ridiculous, but I'd probably go to the Giants, who needs production at linebacker, and I'd probably go get like he has the 328, and I don't know. I'd probably ask for like Ben Neiman also to give him a little flyer at linebacker, and just you get a replacement pick. You get off of that contract. Giants can actually use those points, and then you get a linebacker who hopefully in a year or 2 figures it out in Kansas City and becomes productive.
Yep. So again, I'll stick with my word and not give a specific offer. That being said, he's got $125 million in cap space. If you're looking for a team that can be a player in free agency. It's this guy because of the space he has. Now, that strategy didn't work out fantastically for him last year because he was trying to spend all his money and didn't really hit a whole ton. So a better or a different approach maybe should be utilize that cap space to go build the team like the Texans did last year of, Melvin Gordon, of, 8 to $12 million role players that you have the cap space to get a depth of. Maybe get yourself in the 50 to 60 range of cap space, and then use that to round out your team rather than having to make that entire leap from, the 50 million you've got right now and 120 in cap space to a full team. That's what I would try and do here. Is there's still going to be teams who need to shed cap and teams that want to shed cap to make more deals. So I think, guys like Alberto, guys like Quan, I think he's got a lot of folks who would pull back a second or third rounder that he could move. But instead of going for the pick, go for the player on the tough contract worth that pick, and you're getting the production at a discounted price, and it's going to help you get there faster, especially considering the cap situation he's in.
Yeah, I mean that wouldn't be unreasonable. Like you can turn like younger, cheaper players into slightly more expensive vets that are probably going to just end up being more productive. If you just want to give yourself like an honest shot. But I mean, like I'm not opposed to just getting rid of all the late 20s guys and just starting a rebuild. Not necessarily a rebuild, but find your quarterback, then start building. You have 3 really good tight ends. Probably get rid of one of them. I don't know. Albert. No, probably Hayden Hurst, just because he wouldn't be in like a competitive window with the other players.
I mean, the other truth of the matter here is with Texans in a rebuild, Titans barely missed out last year. There's an opportunity to take the South this year. I'm not saying that Colt should pull Pats and go all in and try and do that right now, but there is a vacuum at the top of the South that he could start positioning himself for. Again, whether you go for the rebuild and the winner of the South ends up being 7-10 this year, that's an option. But there's a vacuum, I think, at the top of the division that he could potentially start building towards. But he needs to do it smartly.
I think this is just Titans division for the time being, and like everybody should just kind of try to get better than the Titans. Maybe take a year to do so.
We can talk through that in a second, or in like 10 minutes or something like that. But I don't know. Whenever we get to him, we can cover that. But again, that's another option.
Yep. And same with the next team. We have Jags. Like I would, you have Pat Mahomes. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be around for a while. So if you bow out for 1 year, no, maybe not bow out. I guess he could probably just build up assets, but I definitely would sell off Matt Judon right now.
Yeah. I can talk more about this team. Javis is pissing me off because he keeps going after players that I'm also targeting, but he's actually getting the deals done, whereas I'm falling short. So, damn it, stop it. Again, Mahomes is a good long-term asset. He is invested in getting Mahomes and invested heavily to get Mahomes. So moving him doesn't make sense. I get it. Picked up Chase Edmonds on a $6 million deal, which I love. Has some undervalued receivers. I love Tyler Higbee. I love that he's got him on a $5 million post rookie deal contract. Judon, I agree, probably needs to go, and he's got a lot of cheap point scoring assets. I agree. Judon is the one that makes the most sense. And again, I think it makes sense with the idea of he can take back money. He's got $80 million in cap space spoken for on 25 players. So again, he doesn't need to add as many pieces. He's going to want to keep building through the draft like he has been trying to, and he picked up a good number of picks last year. But moving Judon to, for say, a Bobby Wagner or something like that, Wagner's the wrong player.
Oh no, I figured you just go to the Cardinals and you ask for DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, you cheeky bastard! Yeah,
$15 million contract compared to a $500,000 contract.
I think Cardinals has the flexibility to do that now since Jamar Chase is doing as well as he is. But I could see that being a problem based off of what DeAndre's price tag was last year. So I like the idea. I think I would try and go after, again, a younger asset than DeAndre, someone, again, with the same kind of window left, probably 2 to 4 years at least.
Okay, so one of his teammates go to the 49ers and ask for Rondale Moore.
Yeah, I think, or go try and get a multitude. Like, hey, could you get Jalen Reagor and like 3 other, mid-tier players that helps round out the roster a little bit, keeps you young, and put you in a position where, okay, now I can spend $75 million, maybe on 2 or 3 players. Obviously, part of the $80 million has got to be kept in reserve for draft pick cap space. But yeah, that's definitely an option. Yeah. All right, we just had a trade take place while we're on the podcast here, so hopefully nothing involved in the Bears or the Bengals impacted anything you had here. Bears gave up Tremaine Edmonds and a 5th for Joe Schobert in a 3rd. Did I miss something? Is Tremaine Edmonds been compromised in Buffalo, or?
Nope, still just a monster.
I've always been too low on Joe Schobert, so I'm
23 years old with 5 years of NFL experience. I mean, I don't.
I really liked the Tremaine Edmonds side of that deal, but
yeah,
that's me. I've liked him since he's come into the league. Okay, well, damn it, good deal for Bengals. Mm-hmm. Chris, if you got time to make these kind of deals and have comments in chat, you have enough time to get on the goddamn podcast. Nobody in India, wherever your IT people are, care to talk to you at this point. You'd have more fun talking to us. So,
I don't hate Joe Schobert. Like I think he was more productive than anybody expected in Pittsburgh, and like he's still really valuable. Like, because of his price and production, he's still a very valuable asset in our league. I just don't know if he's like, I don't know if a 3rd makes up the price of a $9 million price controlled 23-year-old Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm viewing it as 2/3 for a high 2nd and a 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Not the deal I'd want to make, but I could see somebody making that kind of deal.
Nobody walks away like discouraged.
Chat's not going to blow up about it, but I think we have our preferred side there. Anyways, talking about preferred sides, you seem to prefer the Titans in this division here, so let's talk about them next.
Mm-hmm.
$40 million to Kirk Cousins. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no longer Taysom Hill. It's Kirk Cousins that's your most expensive quarterback right now, I believe. So, that's going to be a lot of fun. Has $80 million tied up between Cousins, Rashard Penny, Julio Jones, and Eric Ebron. Yes, I traded him Jefferson, so he's got a very good – he and Pittman are a good young receiving core, so all you need is Julio to be your wide receiver 3. Mm-hmm. Got it. He's got Damian Harris and Rashard Penny. Harris looked like it's a timeshare there, so between those two, if everyone stays healthy, that should be fine on offense. I have no idea what the hell Ebron's going to be in Pittsburgh, not because I think it's going to be bad. I just don't know. So I think that could be a challenge there.
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent.
But I agree that this is a favorite in the division. he just needs a couple of his very cheap players on defense to continue to be as productive as they were last year. 20 million spoken for and 26 players. That's going to be really tough to fill in any edges if anyone ends up in a bad situation. So he's definitely the team to beat in the South, but I think he's catchable.
So he has 3 second-round picks. So I think you, and he has a late first, 122. So like the 122 maybe goes towards offense. The other seconds go towards like filling in the defense. Maybe he picks up a couple of like players in free agency, some like 1-year guys. Not an unreasonable thing. The one thing that I would probably do is, just because you have 4 good, like hopefully will be productive safeties in the NFL, I'd probably just take the profit on the most productive one, and I'd probably sell off Jeremy Chin and look to add like maybe more picks to bring in more second round, linebackers or defensive ends. Maybe Michael Carter, but I like that contract a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, safety is the position that you'd like to be dealing from. The problem here is the players that he's going to get the most from would be, like I said, it's better to deal from a position of strength, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The players that he's dealing from a position of strength, he either is counting on or he just consolidated to acquire. So unless you want to be a constant flipper like I am, these aren't players that you're trying to sell. But no one's going to give you a first-round pick for Kirk Cousins. You're going to have trouble moving either of the running backs. You want to hang on to the receivers. Like, it's tough to make the deal, and I know we've recommended it for like 3 of the owners so far. There's not a huge market for safeties. I mean, it's not corner, but if you look at the number of safeties scoring in the 120 to 150 range out there, from a competing team perspective, I think most of the competing teams are pretty well set at the position. So that said, it's either going to be a race of 8 teams to satisfy the needs of 3 teams.
Oh, of course.
Or you're going to have to come up with something else from the piece here. So I think you're on the right track of the seconds. But if you're going to do that, it's probably time to say goodbye to Kirk Cousins. So, again, the potential.
I don't know if there's really much of a market for Cousins, especially with that contract. He's only on a franchise deal.
So the potential big boy offer that he could put out there, and I don't know what the desire for this. Like I said, there's probably less of a feeling of let me move off a player I just acquired. What if he moves Cousins and Justin Jefferson and one of those seconds for Josh Allen?
But then I don't think you have that much. Yeah, your wide receivers take a huge hit. You have to get some type of production at wide receiver back, and then
use those seconds to go acquire a wide receiver or 2 that are kind of in that range. I think that's going to be a lot easier to do with those picks than acquiring other pieces he needs. And then he's got locked in strong performance in the quarterback position that is going to cost him close to what he was having to do before. And he's not going to have to keep franchise tagging Kirk Cousins on a year-to-year basis, because I can only imagine what next year's contract, because I'm pretty sure he franchised him last year. So,
I mean, if it happens, you're automatically giving yourself a competitor in the division.
Right. Again, then the question becomes, can Cousins be flipped to a contender with that contract? Or is it one of those where you have to trade extend him and try and move him? Again, it gets complicated, but there's an option around something like that I think could make sense. And considering the cap situation that now Texans finds himself with, if he does have to kind of extend and then renegotiate Cousins, and then he can afford to pay Jefferson. He can afford to pay some of these pieces and buy some of these stuff at just distressed asset prices. Just spitballing ideas out here. All right, so let's talk about Bills next. And I think that player he's definitely going to move is Dak Prescott.
Really?
It's an inside joke. Eric's never moving Dak Prescott in any league. Eric has been a Dak Prescott truther since the draft. Actually took Prescott in almost all of his leagues that he could before Prescott broke out. So, running joke that now everyone's in on, don't offer Dak Prescott. You're not getting Dak Prescott from Eric. It's fun to talk about inside jokes, right?
Yeah, of course.
Everyone loves those. So Super Bowl runner-up, the big, concern for me on this team is the wide receiver position and the tight end position. I think the wide receiver position is a bit of a false flag. What's going to happen with Jarvis this year? Jones benefited from injury and just a messed up situation in Jacksonville. Bateman, I love, but didn't break out. Tim Patrick got extended, but Judy and Sutton and Patrick, I hope it's not
Hamler.
Judy, but you have Javonte Williams, you have Gordon's not going to be back there. You have Alvin Noah, you've got Noah Fant. We're playing with one football, not two. So it's one of those where I don't see a clear wide receiver one there. It's a question of, does he have the asset to go get one with – he does have the cap space. He's got 27 players spoken for. So he's got to be careful in some of the moves he makes. But I think he could go get one of those pieces. So, again, if you maybe takes a Bateman and Patrick, puts it together to try and get Hopkins, that could make some sense. I think running back might be a higher priority. Pollard's locked up long term, but who knows what that role is? Probably a good one, but I think that's probably what I'm looking at here is trying to take two of those receivers together, go get like a Hopkins or something like that of a higher valued contract than filling around the pieces. It's just like Jarwin at tight end is worrisome. And if you don't get a tight end either in the draft or in a trade, it's really expensive to do so in our league.
Yeah, I was going to say just get rid of Tim Patrick while you can still get a good haul for him, just because I think there's way too many mouths to feed there. But I would probably move him right now while his value's high for a lesser running back and maybe something else. I don't know. If you didn't have some absurd amount of wide receivers, I would say go talk to you for somebody like Rex Burkhead or a Trey Sermon, somebody who's underappreciated right now. Maybe
get a number of running backs, yeah. So
right, and maybe get back something else smaller. Maybe a defensive player or another lesser wide receiver. Maybe a return specialist or something.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. All right, moving over to the Dolphins. Fingers crossed, Jalen Hurts keeps his job, and then this team's looking scary again. Offense is disgusting. Keenan Allen's contract is disgusting. Maybe this is the year O.J. Howard finally breaks out.
With who? He's not under contract with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, well, the everyone likes to cite the tight end on the second team, and finally that's the situation he breaks out in.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the selling point for O.J. Howard this summer. Is they're going to talk about the Eric Ebrons of the world. They're going to talk about the history of tight ends who couldn't break out, couldn't get the targets they needed on their first team, go to the right second team, and voila, skies open up and everything is wonderful again.
Well, I mean, he's shown early in his career like he converted targets really well and put up a decent amount of touchdowns. So like he can definitely return to form. But I probably would be if I was Dolphins, I would be out trying to buy a tight end. Like I would buy slightly depreciated one, maybe Hayden Hurst from the Colts. But also with the Colts having Pitts, it's kind of like he has the tight end 1 and 2 in Atlanta.
No, and again, I'm going to come up with two here because I don't want to cheat and just keep using the same example. But a Jalen Hurts, Keenan Allen, and picks conversation could be a conversation starter for Josh Allen because you get your long-term cost control contract plus the salary dump. So that could be option A. Option B is I'd really like to add a 10-pole DN. I think he's got Rousseau, Gregory, and Myers, which is good. I think those have performed well, but I'd like to have at least one more in that rotation. So that would be the area I'm looking at here. Tight end between Ossie and Howard, I'm less concerned about. I think you can maybe get a depth piece there. The other thing that I mentioned earlier might be fool's gold is the wide receiver position. Kirk was a big play Jane last year. I think 120 of his points came over 3 games. AJ Green looks cooked. Keenan Allen is a beast, but how many more years can he be doing this? So trying to pivot into something that gives you some stability at that position without it taking up half of your cap space probably makes some sense too here. So Allen's probably the only piece that can be broken down. The problem is the price tag and the 1 year, especially if nobody buys him in the franchise tag auction. So what do you get back? So I don't know. I think the move here may be instead of tight end is taking the chance outweigh the potential downside outweighed by the cost controlled contract with Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Pivot off of him and then use that to fill in some of these holes.
I mean, if you could get a nice haul for Hurts, it certainly could fill out a roster. And if I'm not mistaken, Dolphins still has a decent pick this year, right?
So, and again, I know it's not Goose's style. It's not going to happen. But if he went to the Chiefs and said, give me Daniel Jones, give me a pick or two for Jalen Hurts. Hurts is a second contract, cost-controlled asset that Goose can have a high points per dollar on, which that's one of the things that he looks at, while using some of those picks to alleviate some of the uncertainty at the position. I think Goose has tended to aim for, give me the undervalued quarterback. I'd rather, go for the stressed asset than pay up for a good one. But that's the kind of situation I'd be looking for.
It wouldn't be unreasonable. So maybe like a Daniel Jones and some amount of first-round picks for Hurts.
I think he's got like 27 or 28 or something like that. So something like that. Like throw me two later firsts with Daniel Jones to come get Jalen Hurts. Jones isn't irrationally going to cost too much this year. He's got 1 more year of starting to figure things out, and then use those first to kind of solidify some other pieces.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, moving down to the Jets. Rest in peace, Santi. Another original owner gone. Gonna miss you, doubles partner, but glad to have new blood in for the Jets because things had stagnated, and I'm just happy to be, I think, his first trade. So kind of a win-win all around. But yeah, I think he's got 1 more year of golf starting in Detroit. I don't think anyone's going to be drafted this year that's going to take that job immediately. Beyond that, definitely trying to turn over and get younger, but he's got to do it at the right time and the right pace. I think breaking up Diggs makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier of a contract to break up than Devontae Adams was. So I think that's really my next step here is when people have the cap space to do it, moving that, because the big risk, he's got 2 years left, but the Pro Bowl. So you got to hope Diggs doesn't make the Pro Bowl this year so you can extend him, or else that's a ticking time bomb. So I always say I'd rather be a year early than a year late. This is a situation where you're a year early, maximize on the 300-point wide receiver, break him down accordingly based off the 14.2 price tag, and then reinvest those assets elsewhere.
Yeah. So I was actually going to suggest a trade with you. So I think he should send Brandon Cooks to you for Eric Murray, Jerry Jeudy, and probably both of your second round picks. Maybe one of your your latest first, something of that nature. But I think you trade Cooks, who is a very consistent, very proven asset, for a a younger, slightly underappreciated asset, a safety to fill a spot on your roster that is productive, which you have an abundance of safeties, so just kind of to fill in value. A couple of later picks for a shot at another productive player, and then Jets doesn't necessarily have to make a decision if they're going to be a tanking team or anything like that. They get back hopefully a productive wide receiver. They fill a spot that they need production in, consistent production, and then you can take a shot at a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't probably do that trade just because I feel the price is a little too high, especially as it involves Texans. I kind of view any Houston Texan as a distressed asset right now, but I like the idea of it, is taking one of those receivers, breaking them down into 3 or 4 assets that you can use in the right spots to kind of rebuild or restock the team. So I think he's going to have an easier time doing it with Diggs than with Cooks, but I like the concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't necessarily have to be with you, but ideally somebody that has, a good early second round pick or a late first round pick to add on top of a young wide receiver.
Yep. All right, let's keep going with the AFC East here. We got the Pats, who I love the activity. You got to question the $22.5 million towards Kendrick Bourne, but if you believe in the talent, you believe in the role, I get it. Maybe he sees a little bit more next year, but definitely has a number of cost control players that allow you to take a risk on a player like that. So good on you. And $50 million in cap space still. So it's not like he's hurting because he's got stuff other places. I think the big thing here is depth, but I don't know how you do it, to be honest, because I don't think you can move any of the offensive players right now for depth. I don't think you want to break down any of the defensive players you have there, or are they going to carry enough value to do so? So I don't know what his pick situation is, but the big thing there might be trying to build around the edges with picks. Would J.D. McKissic maybe be available for a 3rd or 4th round pick?
I don't think Pats has any picks.
So then the only other option is to try and downgrade at one of these. So I think the Matt Ryan renegotiation was really smartly done. Him at 16.5 is probably in the 30 to 32 range and probably gets him through the rest of his career, especially with the retirement stuff changing. So I think he could get moved to one of these teams who isn't as showing up at quarterback as he'd like to be, to kind of trade down a bit and either upgrade one of his receivers or add another running back or two, something like that.
So I have an interesting one that I
That's
would
interesting.
suggest. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Matt Ryan to the Cardinals for Jimmy G and one of his older wide receivers, probably DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, that'd be fun. Oh man. All right, Pats. I know you're listening. Make that offer because that'd just be fun. Like that. That helps both teams.
So Pats gets an extra little bit of gamble of like, I don't know, Jimmy G might like find a landing spot and get multiple years. Cardinals has, if I'm not mistaken, multiple early picks. Yes,
Um,
they actually have they have the Dolphins first this year, so they have 115 and they have their own at 107. So like if Cardinals wanted, they could like get rid of Jimmy, like get rid of Josh Rosen, who's just kind of like sitting there for relatively no money. Like load up on another quarterback, have a productive quarterback this year in Matt Ryan, who will eventually just fall off, and then he will upgrade his productive wide receiver one for a drastically younger wide receiver one.
I mean, I love it for all sides because if there's one owner in the league right now who's full, I don't give a fuck, give me all of the risk, it's Pats, and I love it. He gets the upside of Hopkins for the risk of Jimmy.
Hmm.
Um, the other side, it's you get stability. You get, 250, 300 point quarterback who's going to get you good, solid weeks, week in, week out in Matt Ryan at a fair price. And the upside of everything that comes with Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's stability for risk slash. I I love it. Like commissions, can we just make this deal? No, they don't even need to approve it. Like send it to each other, approve it. Let's just make it happen. Chris, I think you're listening. Come on, turn off that call. Do this instead. Approve that trade. Let's just do it. The owners don't even need to be involved.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's go west, young man. Um, Broncos. So moved off of Pat Mahomes and is still paying $30 million to a quarterback position you don't feel great about. Um, Considering the next two teams, we have to address just the worst run of luck ever. The Najee Harris for Derrick Henry trade. We're going to talk about Cardinals more in a second. Not Cardinals, Chargers more in a second. But truly, that could not have gone worse for the Chargers. So I don't have one to pour out here, but I would pour one out for the Chargers in terms of everything that's come there because not only did he give up Najee Harris and everything he was doing at the end of the year to get Derrick Henry, not only did Derrick Henry immediately get injured, now Derrick Henry is holding out. And if there's been an owner who has been on top of his shit in terms of managing holdouts, it's been Matt. In terms of the Eckler contract, Kittle contract, things like that. If you look at the ridiculous contracts in the league, there's a pretty good chance they originated with Matt. So considering like everything else that's gone wrong with his team in the playoffs last year, Henry, all that stuff, now to get hit with Henry holding out on top of it, just I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. Good for you, Broncos. Sorry.
It took 3 years of fixing that Derrick Henry contract, and now he's expensive again. And it's just like that man's gonna get his money regardless in a fantasy league.
It's true. It's God, like I said, I had to start with that. I know we're talking about Broncos, but you can't look at the team without having to again give the proper respect to tough situation there. Anyways,
So Broncos has the 102.
that's right because he has Jags pick, right?
Right. So he takes whoever I don't, if I don't trade the pick, which is Kenny Pickett, let's say, like just for right now, just to So he covers his quarterback and he doesn't spend a whole lot more on it. I think because like he doesn't have a huge amount of picks other than the 102, and I don't know if he really 103. I'm sorry. Hi.
Hello.
Why?
That Derrick Henry shit is just utter fucking bullshit, is what that is.
We're not to your team yet. You can rant in a second here. That was my rant. You can have your rant in a second. But yes, it is utter fucking bullshit.
My apologies. Broncos has 103, so he's.
Oh, that changes everything. Doesn't change
everything. Probably still like ends up with Kenny Pickett or the second quarterback, let's say.
I think that either the second quarterback or the first receiver / running back.
Yeah. I think you have to break down Derwin James. Like you have to hope somebody still values him ridiculously high, because they should. And like you have to break him down into multiple like good assets, probably on defense. They don't have to be the greatest players, but they all have to be productive. They have to be, linebacker twos, defense, like lower end D end ones. Maybe get like some, junk wide receiver that's like overpriced thrown in there. But like that seems to be the only asset that you need to get rid of, unless you want to try to capitalize on the production from Michael Carter. But I don't know if anybody's really going to pay a premium. You're probably just going to get what you invested in him back.
Yeah. I'm going a different direction. Again, I'm going to come up with two because we've already used one of these assets a ton of times. What if he offers 103 to the Cardinals for DeAndre Hopkins and 114?
I mean, it's not unreasonable. Like the value's there, but I think you like. I don't know. I think you want the early pick, like, is the gamble.
So you do something like that. You have Hopkins and Chark. You have Harris. You got Carter. You got Wentz. You got Knox. You've got the basis of an offense, and they should serve as a basis for you for the next couple of years. You still have the 114 to be able to add to that offense, either with probably something like the running back 2 or 3, the quarterback 4 or 5, and or another premium either defensive player or probably end of the first round in most draft picks. So I think that's a good spot to be, again, plus you get DeAndre Hopkins out of it. So I think that does more for him than just sticking and picking at 103. So if I'm him, I'm trying to move back into that early teens range and then pick up an aging premium piece that is going to cost a little bit more because 21 players, $75 million, he's got the space to be able to take on one tougher contract and still fill out the rest of his team. So that would be the approach I would be going here is take the 103, trying to turn it into 2 or 3 assets, and then continue building towards next year. He's not going to catch Matt this year, but he's got to prep for the following year when there might be a shot to do so.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, like maybe go see. I don't know if like Steelers really values it, but like break it down into like another lesser type of quarterback and like a couple other things.
Yeah, maybe it's. I think Steelers is like 10.
Yeah, the only reason why I say that is Jameis Winston, like a perceived like lower price starting quarterback. I mean, I think you might have to go a little bit lower than that.
I don't think he doesn't need another quarterback. Wentz is going to start there. So
I don't.
Give me a skill position and a pick, and depending on how good that skill position is how far I drop. I don't think he wants to drop below, say, 15, but that's what I would think about.
Okay.
All right, Matthew. Rant time.
I just hate it here, man.
Look, this is your Festivus, man. A lot of shit's happened. You got a problem with a lot of people. Well, maybe not a problem with a lot of people, but
I do, but not in this league. No, this league's good. This league's fine. Work is rustling my jimmies right now.
Oh, that's understandable.
Wrestling
And
your
all of
jimmies.
us.
That could
really
be a good thing
fucking
or a bad thing.
pulled that one from way in the far back machine. No, fucking Derrick Henry playing. What was it like? I don't know. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Exactly 8 games. And this man ends up going up $4 million because he fucking holds out. Like,
He's an animal.
Pain in the ass. Now, granted,
hate it here.
you'd still be able to find takers for him, I'm sure, but not Najee Harris takers. So not meaning to put more salt in that wound, but yeah.
That's all right. I have faith in you to get back in. Like, it's not like your team's bad by any stretch of the imagination. So, like, I'd imagine you will make some good trades, and you will be right back at the top of your conference, looking down at everybody else. So, but I do think that Gesicki and Alexander Johnson should probably be like cobbled together and flipped for a slightly higher valued tight end.
Oh yeah, no. If I could pull that off, I'd definitely go for it. Fuck, I misplayed that. But at this point, it's just a matter of getting these things done.
Yep. Completely understandable.
So like honestly, the Derrick Henry deal is only another $4 million. It's another $4 million when I'm already strapped for cash, which sucks ass. But it's not like I'm bringing in any rookies, so I was just more surprised, if anything, that like we saw a bunch of trades go down. You guys have been fucking rocking it with trades in this league. I think I got like one offer. Like I think I legitimately got one goose offer, and that was it. And I wasn't very active, so I'm not overly upset about that. But it was just like, ouch. Little bit of ouchie on that one.
I feel your pain. I see a lot more goose offers than I do offers from the other 30 owners.
I mean, that's always going to happen, though. I just hope that wasn't a 1-to-0 ratio.
The limit does not exist.
No, it's like a 17-to-2 ratio.
The other two are me, probably.
Huh?
Well, one of them was me.
No, both of them were you.
Oh, okay, shit.
I say that jokingly. I have had other offers, but they are very sparing in comparison to Goose, and that's not to poke fun at Goose. That's to tell everybody else that they need to make more offers.
They could.
Very likely.
It really makes me happy that people listen to the podcast live, because here he is blowing off his developers.
I haven't heard the last hour or so. Whenever the last time I chatted in the chat was the last time I was listening. I was working. Now I'm not working, and I will be working again.
Did you hear my suggestion of your interdivision trade?
No, I missed that. What am I supposed to do?
You should go to the Browns and offer Miles Sanders for Chase Claypool, because they are both underappreciated by their teams and I guess the league.
I don't hate that idea. I'll likely talk to him in the future.
I only say that to fill you in on how much you have been talked about on the pod. That was basically the only time we really.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You have a decent team, so we can't really like make you sell things off to help everybody else.
So what's the overall topic? Selling?
Finding trades for everybody. We're going through the AFC for the most part.
All right.
Yep, we are on everyone's favorite team, the Chargers.
Well, actually, we're also going to contact you guys about making a trade, forcing a trade through with just what was it, Cardinals and Pats?
Yep.
Okay.
Forcing a trade.
Yeah.
It just needs to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect trade.
It was
Would-
Matt Ryan and Amon-Ra St. Brown for Jimmy Garoppolo and DeAndre Hopkins.
Huh. Sounds fun.
Exactly. It needs to happen.
Sounds fun.
Just do it. Each of them propose it to each other, and if in 2 days neither of them reject it, you just push it through.
You just do it.
That's going to be the new policy. If you're not active, we're going to be active for you.
Oh man, I've not had a chance to look through most rosters since the rollover. It has been a crazy time at work, but I've got some minutes. Wanted to hop on. I see Matt's returned to the pod life.
For now.
That's always good.
It's a good place to be. That's all there is to it.
Let me put it like this. My work has been so fucking stressful. I haven't been able to think about anything else for like a month and a half now. And I've just reached the breaking point in which I needed to do something other than go to work, deal with work bullshit, or go to the gym.
You know
And
what's
this
fun?
happened.
Podcasting.
Yep.
This is, again, for me, talking about this league is fun for me. Talking about everyone else's team is fun for me. So this is part of my de-stressing routine. So
Matt,
it should be part of everyone else's.
I just look at your team, Matt, and I see Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl,
Mhm.
Pro Bowl, holdout. 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 2 year. That's gonna be fun. And by fun, I mean terrible.
I've got a plan. There's motion in the ocean.
I'm insanely curious to see how the plan plays out this year.
Oh, it's a
Step
very
one,
simple
underwear.
one.
And
Step 1, win the Super Bowl. Step 2, tank.
all right, win it, then rebuild.
We're going with the hypothetical Rams situation where basically all of their good old players immediately retire and like Aaron Donald retires.
I could
Sean
see,
McVay retires.
everyone's going to the Twitch. Everyone's going to NFT and twitching.
yeah. All right. Well, you guys carry on. I got nothing constructive to add right now. I'm barely awake.
All right. Well, in terms of deal for Matt, obviously, I think a Derrick Henry move makes some sense. It may take a little bit of shopping to do so. The other one, I think that is kind of staring in the face is Devonta, but I don't think that's going to be something that's going to easily be executed. The last bit would be trying to get in a year early on. I was going to say Ayuk, but no. The thing maybe I would think of here, and Matt's going to shake his head and say I'm out of my damn mind. If there's one thing that always makes me nervous, it's owning a Shanahan running back going into the offseason. So if it's a time to cash out with Elijah in the right situation, I think that's a piece that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's, especially once you get out of the top 12 of this draft, going to be a number of takers for something like that. So I think it wouldn't be one of those picks straight up for Elijah, but I think pairing Elijah to take a downgrade at running back and then a pick in the teens makes a lot of sense. And I think, if I remember correctly, the Cardinals are a team that could be hunting here. So, yeah, so something like an Alexander Madison and the 14th pick for Elijah Mitchell.
Oh yeah, no, if somebody actually comes with a serious offer and not like third place team first round pick in 2025 or some bullshit like I got for Elijah, I think I'll
Listen to
definitely
that.
entertain it. Yeah.
So that would be my
You-
thought process there is
Yeah.
Madison's been kind of a 100 to 120 point running back year in, year out, has his games, has some points here or there. In 14, you cash out Elijah. If he maintains the job, huge value, probably at a lesser price for someone like Cardinals than he'd have to pay otherwise. So that would be a deal that I think makes some sense for Matt.
This is also assuming that I get to keep Cordarrelle, who's now a fucking running back.
Yeah, I was going to ask your opinion on that. Does that make him more valuable or less valuable to your team?
Honestly, kind of the same, because like running back's a more valuable position.
Yep.
But I also, on the other hand, like I already had two running backs in Henry and Mitchell. It's like
Yep.
this is just shoring that up further. But on the flip side, like I'm now a little bit weaker at wide receiver than I had hoped to be. I was really hoping to come in with 250-point guys, and like in him and obviously Devontae Adams is more like a 350-point guy. But we take what we can get around here. So it's a catch-22. I'm still fine with my wide receivers, and like I'm pretty much my offense I'm totally okay with. I put up my trade bait just as I got on here, and I'm more than willing to take offers on any of those guys that I put up on the trade bait. But like my offense isn't what I'm stressing on at this point, really realistically. Like I trust that I'll be able to grab some random bullshit wide receivers in free agent for not a bajillion dollars that
I think the wide receivers are all going to be $1 bajillion.
Oh, I'm talking about like the shit can guys.
Okay. Yep.
So he's
Yep.
not going to go. He's not going to go big game hunting. He's not
He's-
trying to get a receiver 1 or 2. He's going for the return specialist, the third or fourth options on team, stuff like that. So he's going right to the bargain bin. Which
The issue is that's exactly what I have to do for my wide receiver room is grab the return specialists and the bargain bin to round it out. So if we get a bunch of us all attempting that, it's,
I won't be putting on receivers, so I might throw my name in 1 or 2 garbage receivers, but otherwise it's all you guys.
It's going to be really funny to see a $7.5 million DeAndre Carter.
he'll be more than that. I can guarantee it.
Probably.
I will take the over on that.
How much is Kendrick Bourne sitting at now?
22
22 and a
million.
half.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that Cordarrelle's a fucking running back.
All right. Let's move on to the next team here. It's good that we're going to talk about this team. They need all the help they can get when it comes to trades. They don't really have any good offers. They don't really, send out a lot of deals, stuff like that. It's a complete newbie in terms of trading. So, guys, if you have any advice for Goose on what they should be doing in a trade market here, I think he'd be overwhelmingly excited to hear it.
I bet you hasn't seen a single one of these pods.
Yeah, he should trade me
I was
Kenneth Gainwell and Demetric Felton.
So happy to see him in my division. Just absolutely ecstatic.
Hey, this is your one of him in your division. Talk to me in your like 3 or 4.
So
You
The
assume
one-
I'd be here.
the one thing I don't think that's going to work for Goose that did work for him before he left is his only discount players everywhere strategy. I think it might be good enough to maybe get him to the playoffs with the state the league is in now, but I don't think that particular plan's ever going to take him as far as it had in the past. I think there's too many strong teams now
Yeah.
to just roll with, 7 wide receiver 3s or 4s or whatever he pulls out of there and 8 LB 4s and pull off. I don't think that's going to work anymore.
I'll give him credit. I think he's adjusted his strategy, and I may have talked about this on previous pods, so I will not wax too eloquent on this, is instead of just trying to go straight for those players, he's willing to take interim steps to get there in terms of breaking stuff down. And he's moved into draft picks. He's moved into a lot of cap space right now. So I think he'll be able to get there. I think he's pricing in the fact he's going to have to pay a little bit more for those players than he has in the past. But he's put himself in a position to be opportunistic with $80 million in cap space. I think 3 or 4 first-round picks and 27 players spoken for on his roster. So I'm going to put the over-under at 45, as in how many more Goose trades we're going to get before the season starts. And I don't feel great about the under.
He's on my screen. He's got 96 million in cap space.
Yeah, 96 million.
I feel like free agency is going to be just painful with him with that much money.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah.
gonna buy 73 players, all for under 4 million apiece.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do think he needs to kind of just get rid of one of the defensive ends. Like, don't put so much stock in defensive ends that have Achilles injuries. I don't necessarily like that. That's about all I have for.
Is that what happened to Aquara? Was that Achilles as well, or was that something else?
That was Achilles.
Oh, that was too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's got a pair of them then.
Yeah, like they're both good players. They're both like pretty high value if they return to form, but I don't know if I want to bet on both of them doing that.
I would definitely bet against that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any advice. He knows what he does. He sends out loads of offers. I decline an obscene amount every week. But the dude does what he does.
Yeah, I think he'll. The pieces I see that are still going to move are Carl Lawson. I think he's going to move off of him just because he's coming off the injury. James Robinson, obviously, and then I think Kenny Gainwell is going to move from him as well. I could see him trying to package Jones with one of those first to improve to a more stable quarterback position. But again, by the time he would make a move like that, Mills might have the quarterback spot at least locked in for next year for Houston, so it may not be necessary. But I think there's 3 or 4 players that are going to move off this team, and then he may just kind of sit on the Lorenzo Carter's, the Muhammad Al-Qadin of the world, and hey, he's got $96 million in terms of cap space. He's got to spend it someplace.
I actually don't think he'll keep Al-Qadin. He paid like a third and a fifth for him, and he's tagged him, which would net him a second off of it. I feel like that's just one of his incremental steps. He'll wait for anybody to bid on it and then collect the second and continue.
I mean, it's not an unreasonable thing.
No,
Like,
he's
a stud.
Yeah, it's not a bad plan. Whether he ends up keeping him or gets the pick for him.
Well, I don't know if Goose watches these, but if he does and he is selling Gainwell, come talk to me.
Yeah, I feel like again, Gainwell could end up being one of his the running backs he likes to use in terms of let me get 7 folks who are in the receiving back, second running back role. But again, who knows? But he's making activity, and in my opinion, that's not a bad thing.
Yep.
All right. Moving over to the last team in the AFC West, it's the Raiders. Still very much tied to that Aaron Rodgers contract and everything that happens there. Has kind of used a lot of, I'd say, his powder this offseason. I think he's got to either wait and see on some of these pieces or wait for, frankly, the draft to happen. He's got $50 million in space. He's got 32 players spoken for, so he's got some money to spend. But in terms of trades, like Mike Williams got to see landing spot before you're going to get full value. Otherwise, prognostication is going to play a role in it. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Same with Tariq Cohen. Same with whatever the hell happens with Cleveland's tight end position. I think there's a lot of pieces on this team that you got to figure out where they land before you can get full value for them. So he's either going to prognosticate and be able to move off them, or potentially have to take a discount to make an adjustment here. But core pieces are in place. It's just now a question of what does he do to round out the rest of the team?
Yeah, I don't think you get rid of Mike Williams. Like, unless it's some like awful landing spot and you just have to get, like, you don't want to pay him $10 million. I would probably look to break down Josh Sweat just because he's so valuable. Like, with the contract compared to his production. Other than that, you're like trying to break down things that he's acquired in the offseason, and like I don't think he wants to go that route.
Yeah, like he's not going to move Jonathan Taylor. He's not going to move a lot of those pieces that he's paid up to get. So I think that the idea would be, can I move off of Aaron Rodgers for something? But until he gets traded to a team he wants to go to and it's confirmed he's not going to be hosting Jeopardy next year, you're not going to get Aaron Rodgers prices for him.
I think in the meantime, like he's one of those few teams that's probably looking for a safety, just like small, like I don't know what kind of picks he has, but if he has a third laying around and he moves it for one of those like 120 point safeties that everybody has in excess, then you do it. But like, I don't think he makes any crazy moves.
He's got the 125, and then he doesn't have a pick until the 4th round.
Oh, well.
Stop trying to make safety trades happen, RJ.
Everybody got like, I don't know. Like there's these teams that have like one safety, and then there's teams with 3 safeties, and it makes no sense to me.
What doesn't make sense?
Why some teams would have one safety and why some teams actually like to have depth.
Why do some teams not have 2 safeties?
Right.
Everyone's got 1 or 3.
I had to go check my team after you said that to see where I fell.
Where do you fall? Do you have 1 safety or 3 safety?
I have 3. I don't have 2. I have 3.
I have to check my team too, but I'm afraid I might have 4.
Yeah. Then, sell it to one of these safety needy teams.
Let me look.
Those.
Like,
I have...
and don't get me wrong, like I understand there's also going to be safeties available in free agency.
I have
But,
2.5.
Maybe it'll just stop everybody from spending $17 million on free agent safeties.
It's not.
I did that.
I think some people like to watch the world burn and like doing it in the, oh, you want this player? You really wanted this defensive end? No, I'm taking him for $32 million fucking dollars.
Wait, you have to spend your money somehow. Like the free agent prices are always going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why like before last year I was always the Larry Fitzgerald or Randall Cobb buyer at $17 million during trade deadline. You got to spend your money somewhere, but like I wasn't going to put that into a safety.
I think a bidder, but I don't know if you were the buyer. I seem to remember Fitzgerald ended up on the Packers more than once.
Yeah.
Whether it was paid for or traded or whatever.
I think I moved him to the Packers one time.
I mean,
all right, what do you think? Should we finish out the AFC and then save the rest of the NFC for next time?
Well, we already got the whole AFC.
Well, we still have to talk about the Bengals.
do we?
We
Yeah,
did
do
talk
we?
We
about-
don't talk about Bruno, but maybe we should talk about the Bengals.
Okay.
The
Oh, yeah.
Bengals?
Bengals is swapped with Packers, so we never get to Bengals. Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I'm pretty sure this is my fault. So Steelers and Packers are listed first because Lewis and Jeremy, as the commissioners, picked those teams first. It's the I think the Bengals, and then he's known as the Bengals and Packers. I got switched, but I seem to recall that I traded the rights to the Vikings, the rights to the 49ers before the league started. So I wasn't sure if that kind of had caused things to reshift in terms of order. But I think you're right. I think it is Jeremy took that spot, and then the Bengals moved back there because it was Justin's team at the time.
Yeah.
So, Lewis doing Lewis things.
When you click on like roster, it just puts them in like what the default numerical order would be. Like if they lost the name and it was like team 1, team 2, and just team 2 happened to be keyed in as Packers instead of Bengals.
So, Chris, I think the obvious trade for you is to trade TJ Hawkinson for the 107.
Just
Do you by any chance have the 107?
no, the 107 was our discussion, and remember the other
Mhm.
week.
Yes.
No, from my perspective, what I want to do is likely move a running back for a receiver or a running back for a defensive end. And other than that, I am fairly happy at the moment with the structure of the
Happy?
team.
You're not allowed to be happy with your team.
I'm okay. I'm not happy. I'm content at the moment.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, like you can expect to see like more than 54 points next year from Bud Dupree. We still don't know what's going on with Tuitt.
Nope.
he might play somewhere else. He might not play. He might play in Pittsburgh. Just something will happen. Hopefully. But I do agree. You probably need to grab like a third, like good defensive end just to be safe. I would be worried about wide receiver, but you already said you're probably going to be one of those teams shopping for, like mid-level wide receivers. And, if that's where you put the vast majority of your 44 million, not unreasonable. So like, I think turning one of your running backs into a defensive end would be fine. I don't know which one.
Yeah, I don't know which one yet either. I've got
Like,
choices.
I don't think I'd do. I don't think you like trade off Zeke because I think he's like almost underappreciated. at
Zeke
this
is
point.
the boring running back now at this
Right.
point. Like, he's not going to have any splashy weeks anymore, but he should be an anchor on there to at least set like a minimum point for that position during the week. So yeah, I don't know.
I'd say I'd want to like hold on to Gus because I'd want to see like where things go with him.
Yep.
Naheem Hines, he's gonna be fine this year. Like next year's a question mark because there's an out in his contract where they won't have any dead cap space, I believe. So that might be a concern, but like you'll get Naheem Hines type of production out of him this year. I think like Sanders is the one, but unfortunately, like Sanders is slightly underappreciated for being a starting running back.
Yeah, I don't know how to value Sanders.
Yeah, this might be a situation where I just have to be patient and actually wait until the season and see how some of these guys do. I mean, like if Sanders completely falls on his face the first few weeks, then yeah, I'm not going to get much from him. But if he actually comes out and is decent,
Do you have any draft picks?
define draft picks.
Picks in the rookie draft.
I have an offer. I have picks starting at 414,
Mhm.
and then I have
Fun.
3/5. I have 3/5.
So you try to
Nice.
send all of those to Falcons right now for he has
Alvin Kamara.
he has Dante Fowler, right? He's the owner of he's like the
Yeah,
actual owner of Fowler.
I don't
So
remember.
Fowler just got cut today. So
He does not have Fowler.
Damn, who owns Fowler? You try to offer him for Fowler right now.
No, I'm looking forward to those late round picks that aren't going to be in a team come season start. At least I don't have to assign 4 years any longer to the round.
You know who's
5
Fowler?
picks.
The Bears has Fowler.
There you go. You send all of your terrible picks to the Bears for Fowler.
Who's in cap space hell right now and going to need cheap players to round out his roster.
That's the result of, or that's what caused the trade just earlier during the pod. As a result of his cap difficulties.
Makes sense.
Oh, you also profited Tremaine Edmonds tonight. Don't send any more offers. Just go back to doing what you were doing. You already won the day.
I've done my deed.
Speaking of doing the deed, that's an hour and 40 minutes. That's like twice as long as the last couple, and maybe as long as the last 2 or 3 of these things combined. So, that's what happens. We have flexibility and optionality in trade offers. We can talk forever. So we'll cut it here. We still got the rest of the NFC to talk about, minus the Packers. So we'll spend some extra time on those 15 teams. But guys, thanks for jumping on. It's been a while since it's been a four-burger. So, this is good times. And for those who want to join the post show, now there's some flexibility in trades. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I highly suggest hopping on.
Do it.
The trade sex, all of the trade sex.
This is the perfect evening to do that.
Just poured myself a nice one, and that's cool. Gothic Cavatier. All right, no more ladies' man references from me, I promise. But one thing I will promise is we'll be back next week talking about the NFC. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate all 2 to 4 of you that have rotated in and out throughout the podcast. And we'll talk to you guys soon.